For one thing, I'm going to make a point here and say this. I've never really gotten a good definition for equity out of anybody who's pushing this in science. Never. Never, 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 never. And I have yet to see what kind of measurement they use for equity. Alrighty. This one was sent to me. It's the time of year where a lot of the agencies that do funding of grants for research and planning and other things, it is that time of year where they start putting out their solicitations, those different funding programs. And it is a solicitation for proposals, basically. So this is the time of year when this particular summer, this time of year, is the time of year. What the heck? Okay. This is the time of year. Sorry, I'm having a weird problem. There we go. Finally stopped. Minor problem with the audio. Pardon that. This is the time of year where the funding agencies put out their solicitations for proposals, calls for proposals, requests for proposals. They go by many different names. National Science Foundation is included in that, and they put it out through all of their different directorates, through all of their different programs underneath of that. NSF is considered, the National Science Foundation is considered one of the largest funders of scientific research in the country, if not the largest here. And this is the basic thing that they've just updated their solicitation requests. So this year, their full proposals are due for this particular program called Inclusion Across the Nation of Communities of Learners of Underrepresented Discoverers in Engineering and Science, which is Includes. It's the name of Includes, and if you can't guess, this might be a bit of word salad. Full proposal deadline here is October 25th, 2022. So anybody who's trying to submit to this is trying to get their proposals done and get them submitted through their respective universities or institutions or NGOs or what have you here shortly. So here's the kind of some of the key stuff, and I want to go down toward the into the program requirements and also go a little bit further than that to show you a few things, because it's not often, unless you're immersed in this stuff as I am and as others are, that you get to see these behind the scenes solicitations, but this is also one that is unfortunately a lot of word salad. The Directorate for Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships is a new NSF directorate that participates in the Nsf Includes initiatives. So if you're wondering, I already did something on TIP, the TIP directorate. I was informed a bit about it being somewhat strange, and I was correct on that. There's a video on that on this channel. Let's see. TIP engages the nation's diverse talent in strengthening and scaling use-inspired and translational research. NSF Includes encourages the submission of proposals that focus on scaling up, broadening participation, innovations, and entrepreneurship in STEM. Letters of intent are no longer required. Okay. Yeah, so usually with a proposal, one of the things you have to do is you have to submit what's called a letter of intent, which is to say, I want to submit for this thing. Here's a really, really, really brief summary of the idea that I have and how it fits with what you want to fund and your priorities for funding things. Please, please, please invite me to submit a proposal. Some things don't require that, some things do. NSF didn't require it for this. So there you go. So let's see. General information. Program title, Inclusion Across the Nation of... Okay, Includes. In 2016, the National Science Foundation unveiled a set of, quote, big ideas, 10 bold long-term research and process ideas that identify areas for future investment at the frontiers of science and engineering. The big ideas represent unique opportunities to position our nation at the cutting edge of global science and engineering leadership by bringing together diverse disciplinary perspectives to support convergence research. As such, when responding to this solicitation, even though proposals must be submitted to the Directorate for Education and Human Resources, Division of Human Resources Development, once received, the proposals will be managed by a cross-disciplinary team of program directors. So with each program, there's a program director. Program director basically oversees all the grants that are funded by that particular program of NSF. These are not appointed. Those program directors are not appointed. They go through regular job competition or anything like that. It's not a political appointee. In there, let's see. NSF Includes is a comprehensive national initiative to enhance U.S. leadership in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, discovery, and innovation (STEM), focused on NSF's commitment to ensuring accessibility and inclusivity in STEM fields as communicated in the NSF strategic plan for fiscal years 2022 to 2026. Probably will be worth a read at some point. Oh, goodness. The vision of NSF Includes is to catalyze the STEM enterprise and to work collaboratively for inclusive change, resulting in a STEM workforce that reflects the diversity of the nation's population. More specifically, NSF Includes seeks to motivate and accelerate collaborative infrastructure building to advance equity and sustain systemic change to broaden participation in STEM fields at scale. Significant advancement in the inclusion of groups that have been historically excluded historically been excluded, from or underserved in STEM will result in a new generation of STEM talent and leadership to secure the nation's future and long-term economic competitiveness. With this solicitation, NSF offers support for 5 types of projects that connect and contribute to the national network. Design and development launch pilots, collaborative change consortia, alliances, network connectors, and conferences. The NSF Includes National Network is a multifaceted collaboration of agencies, organizations, and individuals working collectively to broaden participation in STEM. The NSF Includes National Network serves as a testbed for designing, implementing, studying, refining, and scaling collaborative change models and is composed of NSF Includes funded projects, other NSF-funded projects, Subcommittee on Federal Coordination in STEM Education, FC STEM agencies, never heard of that one before. Oops, I gotta remember to scroll down, sorry. Subcommittee, okay, scholars engaged in broadening participation, research, and evaluation, organizations that support the development of talent from all sectors of society to build a STEM workforce. All NSF Includes projects must operationalize 5 design elements of collaborative infrastructure: shared vision, partnerships, goals and metrics, leadership and communication, and expansion, sustainability, and scale to create systemic change that will lead to substantially broadened participation of individuals from historically excluded and underserved groups in STEM. So, there you go. That includes is quite a bit about how to get things to change, get the whole system to change. It's all about systemic changes. Very much a lot of word salad in here. Bear in mind that everything, because this is a federal agency, everything going on with this is funded by your taxpayer dollars, which will give you a something interesting in terms of what I'm going to be reading. Let's see. Anticipated type of award: standard grant or continuing grant or cooperative agreement. Estimated number of awards: 10 to 15. So 10 to 15 awards in here. In any one competition, NSF Includes anticipates funding up to 2 design and development launch pilots, 2 collaborative change consortia, 1 alliance, 5 network connectors, and 5 conferences. Standard grant, continuing grants, cooperative agreements for alliances. So there's different kinds of funding mechanisms for these different things, and that's all that is. I don't have time to go into that particular aspect right now. Anticipated funding amount. Here you go. $5.5 million for all project types in each competition here. So if they fund 10 projects, that's $550,000 a project. Which actually isn't too much if you're doing like multidisciplinary teams and what have you, because don't forget that universities often eat half of the dollar amount you get awarded, just at least half of the dollar amount you get awarded in terms of facilities and indirect costs and what have you if you're doing it through a university. So just note on that one is it's not as much as you think necessarily. Still a lot of money that is your taxpayer dollars. Again, I'm not so sure this is going to be completely aligned with NSF's mission, but hence that. I want to go down here a little bit more to... Okay. I think just the introduction is relevant here because this is obviously a very long solicitation, so I don't want to go through everything, but I did want to show you all of this. The NSF Includes vision is to catalyze the STEM enterprise to work collaboratively for inclusive change, resulting in a STEM workforce that reflects the diversity of the nation's population. NSF Includes seeks to broaden participation in STEM fields through a national network that inspires and accelerates collaborative efforts aimed at increasing the active participation of those who have been historically excluded and or underserved in STEM. The national network is composed of Nsf Includes projects, other NSF-funded projects with broadening participation components, scholars engaged in broadening participation research and evaluation, subcommittee on federal coordination in STEM education, FC-STEM agencies, and organizations that support the goals of Nsf Includes. Nsf Includes is distinguished by its focus on collaborative infrastructure building to achieve systemic impacts and results at scale. The Nsf Includes theory of change illustrates the project's approaches and outcomes that guide the program's work. Inclusion of talent from all sectors of society in the STEM workforce is necessary for the health and vitality of science and engineering and its societal relevance. So if you had stopped right there, I would have actually agreed with that. But considering that the purpose of science is the pursuit of the truth, in my eyes, the societal relevance part is irrelevant. The solicitation seeks to support diverse perspectives, networks, and approaches. New and established partnerships may propose projects engaging with any educational level or context. With this solicitation, NSF continues to offer opportunities to propose projects that contribute rigorous research and knowledge base about broadening participation in STEM, that motivate and accelerate collaborative efforts to advance equity, sustain systemic change, and demonstrably broaden participation in STEM, especially in STEM fields that lack diversity. Researchers and practitioners with experience and expertise in institutions committed to broadening participation are strongly encouraged to consider this opportunity. So, yeah. Oh boy. Proposals must align with the NSF Includes key principles described below: broadening participation in STEM, enabling sustainable change in systems, scaling up outcomes in ways that advance equity, and building collaborative infrastructure. These key principles should be integrated throughout proposals and should align with proposed activities. So here is, let me see if I can't get the graphic on the screen here, right? So this is their lovely little graphic here. NSF Includes theory of change. So increased diversity, inclusion in STEM. NSF Includes national network, increased diversity in STEM at national scale. Here. So this is where their launch pilots come in. Build collaborative infrastructure for systemic change to broaden participation in STEM at scale. Foster network formation, engagement capacity, building and growth. Leverage allied efforts. What the hell is that? I would seriously like to know. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by leverage allied efforts? Probably going to mean working with a bunch of advocacy groups, which, again, the purpose of science is the pursuit of the truth. So no, this is not appropriate, necessarily. But again, remember, your taxpayer dollars, if you're in the U.S., this funds it. There you go. Okay. So these are the 4 principles. The next thing is the 4 principles that they want everybody who submits to this to adhere to. NSF Includes seeks to improve collaborative efforts aimed at enhancing the participation, preparation, and contributions of groups that have been historically excluded and or underserved in the STEM enterprise, such as Blacks and African Americans, Alaska Natives, Hispanics and Latinos, Native Americans, Hawaiian Americans, Native Pacific Islanders, persons with disabilities, persons from economically disadvantaged background, women and girls, as well as intersectional identities. That's a mouthful to say. Each project should address a specific broadening participation challenge. A broadening participation challenge is a clear, concise statement that describes the needs being addressed by the project, the population of focus, and the intended unit of change, institutions or systems. Interesting. Here, so are you going to change an institution? Enabling sustainable change in institution. NSF Includes aims to support projects that take actionable steps to transform policies, practices, relationships, approaches, and or mindsets with the goal of making STEM cultures more inclusive, advancing equity, and broadening participation in STEM. I've already said it before. Fundamental thing, universalism, the fundamental normative principle, one of the fundamental normative principles of scientific research is universalism, which it is anybody can be a scientist. And, yeah, I don't know about... if it's anything... See, the thing is, they're not coming out and saying it, right? They're not coming out and saying they want people to have certain worldviews or anything like that if they're going to be a sentist, which is fundamentally against the principle of universalism as the normative principle of scientific research if you're doing that. It's fundamentally against that. Which means it doesn't fit very well with scientific research. So yeah, they don't come right out and say it the way others have. Though I suspect there's something there in that perspective. Nsf Includes requires projects to scale up proven and promising strategies for broadening the participation of groups historically excluded or underserved in STEM. You figure they could come up with a shorter way to say that. Scaling up in equitable ways requires understanding who is most impacted by the broadening participation challenge being addressed, and why and how they are affected by inequity. Which, remember, inequity is equality of outcome. Really, when it's in practice, it is not equality of opportunity. Projects that realize equitable scale must partner with the groups identified as beneficiaries of the project's work and development and implementation of the plans to scale. Scale up in ways that can be measured as equitable across the involving systems. Okay. For one thing, I'm going to make a point here and say this. I've never really gotten a good definition for equity out of anybody who's pushing this in science. Never. Never, 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 never. And I have yet to see what kind of measurement they use for equity. What is the measurement? What is the measurement? In all seriousness, what is the measurement for equity? They never give me an answer to that. This is something they can't necessarily fulfill here. Expand evidence-based practices and partnerships that address current and historical inequities, and ensure mechanisms for scale, distribute power and resources across participating organizations. And there's nothing about pursuing the truth in there. All Nsf Includes projects must operationalize 5 design elements of collaborative infrastructure in ways that catalyze and accelerate systemic change and lead to substantially broadened participation relative to reported baseline measures of individuals historically excluded and/or underserved in STEM. Collaborative infrastructure is a framework that guides organizations coming together to develop a shared goal or vision, mutually reinforcing activities, objectives, and measures that map progress, plans for continuous communication, and potential for expansion, sustainability, and scale. Nsf Includes projects must build collaborative infrastructure into their approach to broadening participation in STEM. The 5 design elements of collaborative infrastructure are shared vision, partnerships, goals and metrics, leadership and communication expansion. Okay. I'm not going to go into the rest of this because, as I said, this is quite long. Solicitations are quite long. But lots of word salad that isn't really meaningful, except for the fact that it's quite obviously pushing something that seems at its very core, it seems at the very least, DEI. And DEI tends to have a lot of things that are postmodern, and postmodernism is very much the antithesis of STEM, which suggests to me that NSF is undermining its own mission. But that is a whole other problem. That is not to say, no, as I said, the goal, one of the normative principles of science, one of the things we strive for is universalism, that anybody can do science and it should not matter in any of the other characteristics aside from your merit and your ability as a scholar. And it's what we strive for. Perfectly? No. But it is what we strive for. And it is a lot better than trying to basically get into some interesting quotas. I will be curious to see how this unfolds. I will be curious to see who submits and what they fund with this now that they have this, but not necessarily optimistic, and it's an awful lot of word salad. It doesn't mean much. Aside from the fact that it is probably very heavily DEI-centric. That's it for now. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button on the way out the door if you like this video. Comment on the video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, all that good jazz. And until next time, I'm Adrian. Stay curious.